Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of our CapeSpace Connections series. Today, I am so excited to have with me my friend Will Rubenstein. Will is the community director of eForever, which is a new organization that he's going to tell us all about. But Will, hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you, Haley. It's just great to be talking with you again, and thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so excited to be chatting with you and everybody watching. You can see Will's background there.
Oh,
Will is
yes,
celebrating his birthday today.
I am. I know, Haley. Can you imagine? I'm 27. How about that?
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm a
You
little.
look only 17.
That's so kind. That is so flattering. It seems like every year you have a birthday and somebody says you look like, and then they keep lowering that number, and then you're like, oh boy.
And then it's like so unrealistic. That's like, no, you don't have to humor me. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do appreciate the compliment. Thank you.
Absolutely. And this just so happens to fall on a Friday the 13th. So
Yes.
are you at all superstitious or had any
Well,
crazy things happen to you? Or
I mean, I have never had crazy things happen to me on my
Mhm,
birthday, even when,
mhm,
like today, it is a Friday the 13th.
mhm,
But, like, just because the movies when I was a
mhm,
kid sort of created this idea. So
mhm.
I don't know if you remember, but Jason Voorhees, Jason from the movie
Oh,
Friday the
yep.
13th, his birthday was Friday the 13th. I don't think it was November, but
Mhm,
apparently it was like, in all the sequels, it was like
mhm,
always on his birthday,
mhm,
the bad things happened. And that's why
mhm.
the whole Friday the 13th mystique was
Uh-huh.
created, but it's completely an invention. I want
Mhm.
everybody to know who has a birthday on the 13th of any of the other fine months, although November is the best of them, um, that please find me and I will send you all the information on how Friday the 13th is really not unlucky. In fact, without boring you, please trust me. If you Google it, you'll find out it's just a creation of the movies. So don't
Well,
worry.
I'm glad we could debunk this myth
Officially
today.
debunked. I can't spout the link right now, but it's out there.
Uh-huh. Well, thank you, Will, and thank you again for joining me here. You ready to dive on in?
Ready.
Let's do it. Yeah. So, eForever, tell me all about it. What is eForever?
Well, so thanks to an organization called EforAll,
Mhm.
um, they've been on the Cape now for almost 2.5 years, Haley, and I think you
Mhm.
know them well. And but just in case
Mhm.
the audience doesn't, the reason why I want to start for EforAll is only
Mhm.
because the E thing, right? And
Yep.
there's intention behind that.
Mhm.
So um, EforAll has done an amazing job of working with businesses that are in their ideation stage or their pitch stage because they run pitch contests and then are want to launch their business, and then through eforall and their program they're able to actually launch their business into the community. And because they've been so successful, eforever has, which started in another place but we'll talk about that, has basically said, hey, let's work together so that when an early stage business is up and running and they're starting to find their feet, that they still need support.
Mhm. Right.
Because as a small business owner myself, you never stop learning. And my wife and I are now at 17 years owning Camp Wingate Kirkland, but we're still
Mhm.
learning things and there's still value no matter what
Mhm.
stage your business is. So, long story short, what eForever does specifically is that we run peer to peer small business groups.
Mhm.
And that, like, on its face, does that make sense to you?
I guess I mean, I'm already thinking what exactly does that look like, I
Yeah.
guess, you know?
Yeah, that's a good question. So
Yeah.
basically what it means is we find between 6 and 10 small business owners in the community,
Mhm.
and we ask them to intentionally share 2 hours per month.
Mhm.
2 hours per month in a group that is professionally facilitated. So there's the other part that's a little different between, let's say, a BNI or let's
Mhm.
say a networking group. This is a
Right.
group that's committed to meeting on a regular basis, and the facilitator is an experienced former or current small business owner.
Mhm.
So now all of a sudden you're in these conversations where there's a lot of common ground.
Mm.
Because if you've been in business for a year and you're generating money and you're working full time in your business, there's a whole set of concerns and issues.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
for example, oh my God, I got to hire somebody. Well, wouldn't it be nice to talk to someone who's done that before and remembers what it was like, Haley, the
Mm,
first time you had to hire somebody?
mm,
The opposite is true. Oh my gosh, I have to fire my first employee, right? And
mm,
here's a way for 2 hours a month to have a pretty safe and confidential place to really talk out and talk through some really important issues that you may not want to talk to your spouse or your
mm.
significant other about, or your
Right.
mom or your dad.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so I hope that does that define it a little better, where you're doing 2 hours a month. It's a
Hmm.
facilitated conversation, so it's not a free for all. And there
Hmm.
are like-minded business owners who are also, in our case, on the Cape.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's such an awesome thing. And I guess in this COVID world we're living in, how is that taking shape right now?
Great question. I mean, clearly, we all, including
Hmm.
you and I, would like
Yes.
to be having this conversation in person
Right.
and not in our little Brady Bunch logo boxes.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we have moved our entire program online, and EforAll
Hmm.
has done as well,
Hmm.
um, with the idea that having these connections is still valuable, Haley,
Hmm.
even if we can't physically be together.
Hmm.
So what we do is we do run, a Zoom, secure, safe, private Zoom conversation,
Hmm.
but it also there's a little bit of accountability. So there are some forms to fill out in terms of some goal setting.
Hmm.
So since we only meet once a month, you might say, gosh, by the time I come back next month, we do sort of open with like some sharing and some reporting.
Right.
Like I want to tell you, you know, about how my sales might have grown by 25% because of, a strategy I'm trying on my new web store. So there is
Mm.
some goal setting and there is some web related sharing that way. But then
Hmm.
really it's a conversation like you and I are having, just
Mm.
with a facilitator and six other people who really care.
Right. Yeah. So it's an approachable, kind of more like less formal, I guess, kind of thing.
Yes, I would agree. It is less
Yeah.
formal. I think the difference is, Haley,
Mhm.
is when you own a small business like I do, and I own one now. My wife and I have owned Camp Wingate Kirkland for 17 years, or
Mhm.
whether you're starting one, which was fortunate enough to do a couple of years ago in EforAll.
Mhm.
Um, no matter what you're doing, you always there's always something that you want to talk about, but you're not really
Mhm.
sure who to talk about it with.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think that's what's so interesting is small business owners, Haley, and you meet a lot of them, right, at Cape
Mm.
Space.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of us, we need to think about working on our business. So
Mm.
working on your business is way different than working in your business, because I'm sure you know and you see it, right?
Mm.
Small business owners, that's all they do is work in their business, right?
Mm.
They work, 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 whatever that
Right.
is.
Yeah. Kind
That's
of tunnel vision. Yeah.
right. And they're like, okay, I got to grind out. I got to get these social media posts ready, or I got to
Mhm.
call these 8 vendors, or I got to sit down and do my QuickBooks reconciliation, whatever, right?
Mhm.
But are they really working on their business? In other words, are they, like you said, tunnel vision? I like that
Mhm.
metaphor. It's also
Mhm.
like being on the runway. Like when you're on the
Mm.
runway and you're a plane, like all you see is the runway.
Right. Mhm.
So when you participate in the Forever group, you can take off, go up to about 10,000 feet and work on your business. And that's a whole different perspective.
Mm. Mhm. Absolutely.
I hope that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I think it does. Absolutely.
I think that's, you know, everybody's busy, right, Haley?
Mm.
Do you know
Yes.
anybody that's not busy?
Oh my God. No.
Right.
Right.
So,
I would envy them a little.
well, right. So, I mean, everybody's busy, and let's
Mm.
just get that out of the way.
Mhm.
But I really do think if you're intentional
Mhm.
and you want to work on your business, then you do have to have some hard edges and you have to commit to something like this, which I think will fold in on itself. And by the
Mm.
way, you get to give advice and feedback and not just receive it. So
Mm.
it is a two-way, very much a two-way or eight-way
Yeah.
street.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. And what is the exact nature of the relationship, the partnership, I guess, with E for
Mhm.
All? How does that
Yeah.
look like?
So I mean, I look at it as sort of, how do you make Reese's peanut butter cups? Right? You take peanut butter and you take chocolate and they make this beautiful thing. So
Mhm.
what's really great about E for All is that they are very specialized in what they do, and they focus on startups and early stage entrepreneurs, and
Mm,
they're really good at it, right? And and you've
mm,
hosted some of their pitch contests. I've been to some,
yeah.
um, and that is a real strength, and that takes a very certain special set of skills, as Liam Neeson once said.
Yes.
Um, it takes a special set of skills because that is a whole different mindset and a whole different stage. And what
Mhm,
eforall does, they're the peanut butter, and they help get businesses from inside someone's head, or even a couple sketches, or
mhm,
some a website or a Facebook page, and they try to get it into the universe.
mhm,
And they're really good at it. And where
mm,
eforever comes in is we say, okay, that's a 12-month program. It's intense, it's amazing, it's terrific. But what happens on day 366? Now,
right.
eforall ends, but the mentoring and some of the other relationships certainly don't go away.
Mm,
But at the same time, like, you kind of feel a little bit adrift, and that's okay. So that's why our organizations have made a strategic partnership,
mhm,
so that, again, this is certainly true for eforall businesses, but for any small business that has just gotten started, you do feel alone.
mm,
And whether
yeah.
you've been in an amazing program like eforall or not, if you're generating money on a monthly basis and you're
Mhm,
working full time in your business, you are going to have a set of issues and conversations that you would like to have with someone who understands what you're going through.
mm,
So that's where I say peanut butter is eforall, eforever is the chocolate, that's Reese's peanut butter
mhm.
cups. However, any business on Cape Cod, or in my case, I also work on the South Coast, Fall River,
Mhm,
New Bedford area. If you're a small business owner who's been in business for more than a year, you probably would like a group of folks to talk with who are there to support you, and then you have something to add as well. I'm sorry if that was a long answer, but I hope I
mhm.
tried to distinguish the two things.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes perfect sense, like you said.
Okay.
So, for sure.
Well, I mean, perfect is a strong word, but I I appreciate you
As
saying
perfect
that.
as perfect as perfect can be,
Well,
I
yeah,
guess.
perfectly imperfect.
Right, yeah.
I, I I do find that candy metaphors are helpful, so that's
Yes. Who
why I
doesn't
go
love a
with the
good candy
Reese.
metaphor?
I
Yeah.
try, people can understand candy because sometimes I can't understand much else.
That's awesome. And Will, as you've alluded to, I think it's awesome that you are involved in eForever because you have started your own businesses here. You are a business owner.
Hmm.
So tell me about that. So tell me about Camp Wingate Kirkland
Sure.
and kind of your backstory as far as your career here on the Cape.
Sure. Well, we were fortunate to move to camp, and what a nice segue.
Yes, look at that. Perfect.
What a nice segue.
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. And you were nice enough to give me permission.
Yes.
Um, my wife and I moved here in 2004 to buy an existing business, and
Hmm.
Camp Wingate Kirkland started in 1957. And it started as Camp Kirkland for Boys, which
Hmm.
is now what's called Flax Pond Day Camp in South
Hmm.
Yarmouth, which is the
Okay.
town of Yarmouth's day camp.
Hmm.
And Camp Wingate for Girls was here where we are, on White Rock Road in Yarmouthport.
Hmm.
And then in the mid 80s, the brother sister camp basically merged
Hmm.
onto this site here. And that's because the town found a bazillion gallons of fresh water in an aquifer underneath the site where the boys were. And the town was very much, as you can imagine, interested in having an unlimited source of fresh water for the town
Of
of
course.
Yarmouth. So the boys exited and came here, and our name is a whole mouthful, Camp Wingate Kirkland.
Hmm.
So we took over in 2004, Haley, from the
Hmm.
family, the Wilson and Silverman families that started the camp. Um, they had been running it, one or the other family, since 1957. And by 2004, the niece and nephew of the founders were ready to transition into a different phase of their life. And we were just really fortunate. We had worked at other camps in New
Hmm.
England, and
Hmm.
Sandy and I, believe it or not, we saw the camp on Martin Luther King weekend. And Sandy was, let's see, I can do some math. I want to say 4.5 or 5 months pregnant with our first child.
Hmm.
And it just all kind of clicked. We had seen, Haley, maybe 25 camps
Wow.
all around New England. And
Hmm.
you can tell when you walk into any business, right? A
Hmm.
restaurant, a hotel, CapeSpace, you get a sense, right? You get a vibe
Absolutely.
when
Oh,
you walk
definitely.
into a place, and either it's a push or a pull, right? It's either like,
Mm.
oh, I want to stay here. Please take my money, right? Or, wow, I want more. Or sometimes
Totally.
you walk into a place and you're like, And then right. And so
Yeah.
you know this, right? So like
Yeah.
we saw a lot of camps, and a lot of times we were like, whoa, this is not the right place. But when we first
Mhm.
saw camp, it was the middle of winter. There was
Mhm.
nobody here, but something clicked. And so we were really fortunate. And we
Mhm.
moved here Memorial Day weekend of 2004, and our daughter was born 2.5 weeks later.
Oh my goodness.
And I think I'm a pretty, I don't know, not that tough, but I feel like I've been through some things. But like
Mhm.
my wife, I mean, geez, I don't know
Yeah.
how she did all that.
Yeah.
I
Oh my
mean, because
God.
we
Yeah.
were in a camp with an infant, like hello, 2004. So
Yeah. Oh my
we've
gosh.
just been very lucky, Haley. And here's
Mhm.
our job was to take something that was doing well and not
Mhm.
mess it up.
Mm.
And I know you meet lots of small business owners that do take over, whether it's inside a family, right? It's a
Mhm.
transition from from a mom and dad to a son or daughter or in-law,
Right.
and that can be tricky. And it's
Mhm.
also tricky just in the sense that, like, well, if it's running, something's
Mhm.
going right.
Yeah.
So we were very fortunate,
Mhm.
and our job was not to mess it up. And we've added a few things here and there, like day camp, like, we've improved some buildings. But
Mhm.
most of all, our job was to make sure it was just a special place that people wanted to come back to every year.
Mhm. That's awesome, and it's still going strong today? How's it been like with, with
That's
COVID
a
and
good
everything,
question. Yeah.
obviously?
So Massachusetts was one of the only New England states that was denied, that was not permitted to have overnight camp
Mhm.
in the
Mm.
summer of 2020. Connecticut was the other state. Now, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine did run
Mhm.
camps this summer, and not just day camps, Haley. They ran
Mhm.
overnight
Oh.
for those people that wanted to run them.
Mm.
And so we made a decision in May before the final decision, which didn't come until first week of July about overnight. We made a decision not to run either day overnight camp, and that was uh, it's an overused word, but I'm going to say it. It was devastating
Mm. I
because
know,
when
I can
you
imagine,
you
yeah.
know and like many of us, and this isn't about camp, it's about a restaurant, it's about a store, it's about anything. The Cape League didn't
Mhm.
run for the first time
Yeah.
in 100 bazillion years. So
Mm.
whatever it is, the Cape Playhouse, like all those institutions
Yeah.
that are just
Traditions,
right,
yeah.
what you consider
Mhm.
summer.
Mhm.
Thankfully, obviously, the ice cream places were still allowed to be open, but
Mhm.
like for those of us that were not allowed to be open, it was really devastating. And yes, it's devastating to our bottom line. I don't want to deny that. But it was also about what every business means to their customers and to their generation of customers. As you know,
Mm.
um, the Cape is a place where people come back for generations.
Mm.
And we were just basically the nice folks who were trying to uphold the standard that had been started in 1957. And so we couldn't even do our part. I think that was
Mm.
the part that really felt the worst, is that we couldn't do our little part to kind of help kids who had already been through a pretty rough time
Yeah.
by the time summer was here. Um, and we couldn't even offer that, which was stuff we're good at. So the good news is that we are here since September. We've been running something called Pod Squad.
Mhm. Hmm.
Pod Squad is a very cool invention. My wife made a really cool name because I never would have thought of something that cool. It's a way of having kids who need to or want to or have to go to school remotely, Haley.
Mhm.
They can bring their technology to camp right here at Campfire
Mhm.
and still go to school, but they don't have to be home.
Mm.
And so we feel like that's a win-win. So
Oh, yeah.
parents need to work and need some space, and
Right.
children, as you know, need that space and need that development,
Yeah.
I'd argue more than adults do. And
Hmm.
so we've been able to have about 14 or so kids here in two separate pods with masks on and with social distancing and with supervision. And unfortunately, for the first time, we've had to put wireless in our camp buildings. We never thought we'd have to do
Yeah.
that. But
Mm.
now we have kids who then can just be kids, right, when they're on a break.
Mm.
So we see kids
Yeah.
like who have to do their PE, Haley, and you remember
Mhm.
PE, not my favorite thing, but
Oh my
uh,
gosh, hated
you know,
it.
yeah. But now at least they can do their PE and
Mhm.
they can run around camp.
Mhm. No,
I
that's
imagine there's probably some kids right now, Haley, who have to do their PE in their basement or something. I don't know. But
right, yeah, or maybe don't have a backyard to even do it in,
exactly.
yeah.
So we are really fortunate, and camp
Mm.
has been able to pivot a little bit to offer
Mhm.
some programming for some families and the kids that need it. And we're going to stay open through the winter, which we've never done in our 64 years. We've never been
Mhm.
opened usually we close around Thanksgiving and we
Hmm.
shut off everything and drain the pipes, and then we don't open again until April. So it's going to
Right.
be a new set of challenges, but
Yeah.
we're really pleased that we can do this, and we're also pleased that it's helping. Um,
Yeah. That's such a wonderful thing. I think kudos to you and your wife. That's a brilliant
well,
idea.
I apologize. I should mention one other thing that deserves recognition, which is
Hmm.
since June, my wife was able to connect with Jenny Wheeler at the Cape
Hmm.
Cod Family Pantry. I
Hmm.
hope I'm saying that right. And she was in a dilemma because the kitchen that she was using, the commercial kitchen, was going to start to reopen. It was in a
Hmm.
hotel, but it was closed in the early part of the spring. And
Hmm.
our kitchen was able to get a license from the town to operate. So since June, we've been making about 1,000 meals a week
Wow.
with her help. So we help produce the meals and portion them out. And then she's able to distribute them from Plymouth to, I think, Orleans every twice a
Wow.
week.
Oh my
So
gosh,
we
that's
also feel
awesome.
good, and we've also been able to employ a couple folks that we didn't think we would be able to, including our chef and some of our kitchen staff. So again, we're fortunate. We did get a PPP loan as well, or else I don't think we'd be sitting here talking right now, and I certainly wouldn't be
Mm.
looking at my Zoom background.
Yeah.
But have you
Hmm.
found, Haley, that in your experience in the last few months that businesses have been able to? I know pivot is the
Hmm.
overused word, but
Hmm.
have you found that that's worked or is working?
It was interesting. So this summer at CapeSpace, we really saw an influx of interest in our private offices. And a lot of those people were people, or even just people in our business lounge too, but those were people who were working for, a company that's, well, there's no physical office space right now.
Right.
So, making that shift to co-working, we definitely saw that shift in a good amount of people that are coming through our doors. So yeah, so in that perspective, it's been interesting.
Yeah, and I also think it'll be interesting to see, and maybe we'll get to talk about this later, but there is a collaborative spirit on the Cape. I
Mm.
I didn't grow up here. I grew up in the greatest city in America, Baltimore. I will admit. My wife is
Mhm.
from Philadelphia,
Mhm.
and even though our kids were born here, so they're authentic Cape Codders.
Yeah.
We did wash ashore here, but I know there's 15 towns, Haley, but
Mhm.
I also know that there are lots of people like in Cape Space, like
Mhm.
CCYP, like We Can, like the Y. I'm sorry
Mhm.
who else I'm leaving out. There are institutions in EforAll and EforEver also
Mhm.
that can see the Cape
Mm.
as an entity and not Dennis and Yarmouth and Harwich and Orleans. And at the same time, Haley, maybe you agree with me. I hope you do. Maybe not. Each town can still have its own identity.
Mhm.
Each town can
Mm.
still be special and perfect and wonderful for the things that they do well or they're proud of,
Mhm.
but not to the exclusion of helping and making sure that there's adequate, affordable housing. There are enough jobs that are year round jobs to afford that housing, and that there is some form of childcare and youth services so that parents can be working parents.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
so, you know, you grew up in the Cape?
I did, yes.
So
Yep,
do
lived here
you
all my life, yep.
right? And what an amazing thing, right? As
Mhm.
someone who's only
Right.
been here for 17 years,
Mhm.
do you feel that like there is have things changed so that towns are starting to look beyond themselves? Are you seeing that in your experience?
Until I started getting a little more involved with CCYP, I don't think I really felt that way. But I feel like I've learned more through any involvement I've had with CCYP, being a part of their summits, and just
Mhm.
learning that there are people out there who are trying to make a difference and trying to make things better.
Oh,
I mean, currently right now, I don't see like anything, nothing's like standing out to me that's been like a big wave of change, or it doesn't feel like really anything has really like concrete has happened just from my perspective.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
think you also have hope, right?
Mhm. Oh,
And
absolutely.
a
Yeah.
place like Cape Space is the
Mhm.
kind of place that does bring together folks from all over, and not
Mhm.
just, of course, dare I say, over the bridge,
Right.
right? Because it's a
Yeah.
region. I mean, don't you feel? I mean, you don't realize how close Plymouth is and how close Marion and New
Oh my
Bedford
gosh. I
is
know.
until you literally drive over the bridge and you're like, oh my God, it's only 10, 20 more minutes.
Right. Yeah. No, I've had that same experience. Yeah. It's like,
There's lots of people
oh,
out here and
we've
really
been here the
nice
whole
people,
time. Yeah.
really cool people doing
Yeah.
cool things. Um, so I know I went off on a
Mhm.
small tangent, but um, there is a lot of potential here And that's where
Mhm.
our organizations are really here to kind of just be a net to catch a lot of
Mm.
folks as they fall, but not so that they crash, but that more like a trampoline.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like
Oh, that's a
you
great
bounce
metaphor.
up,
Yeah.
like for instance, you're dislocated from your home because of a pandemic and you still need a place to work and you
Mhm.
still need a place to be able to provide, and that's what CapeSpace can do.
Mhm. Oh,
Or,
absolutely. Yeah.
and so it's all part of what I call a net that's sort of a, like I said, more of a trampoline.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because
And
we all want to bounce back. None of us know what's going to happen. It's November of 2020, but
right.
I've only studied a little bit of history. I think you and I both know that 100 years ago there was the 1918 flu, the Spanish flu. Well, that was 100 years ago,
Right. Yeah.
and like it didn't last 100 years.
Mm.
So I
Right.
mean, this is all part of the cyclical nature
Yeah.
of we just happen to be doing what you and I are doing at our
Mhm.
age when there was a pandemic.
Yeah. I think
Do
it's
you believe?
important to have that perspective for
And
sure.
I'm not saying I'm some like great wise old person, even though it
Mhm.
is my birthday and I'm only 27.
Yes.
But like it is important to remember that while you're going through it, it feels like it's going to last forever.
Mhm.
But the truth is, these things do not last forever.
Mm.
And I certainly hope that this is not the first one that does.
Right.
This
Yes.
is I want this to be the first. I want this to be the same as the other ones.
Exactly. Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Absolutely.